The greatest moment at Shibe Park took place on October 12, 1929. Going into the 29 season, the Philadelphia Athletics, led by visionary manager and owner Connie Mack, had been one of baseball's elite teams, winning 5 American League pennants and 3 World Championships. But after 1914, they had become the laughingstock of baseball, finishing in the second division for 10 straight seasons, which included 7 straight in last place. However, by the mid-1920s, Mack had slowly started to assemble a team that would become another Philadelphia dynasty. From 1925 to 28, the A's would finish second in the division 3 times, and then in 29 they finally returned to glory when they won 104 games to run away with the American League pennant. The World Series opponent for them was the Chicago Cubs, who had also been a struggling team. The Cubs had been an elite club as well, having won 5 National League pennants and 2 World Championships, and they were playing in their first Fall Classic since 1918, and the 1929 World Series would be a rematch of 1910, which was won by the Athletics. The series began in Chicago, where the A's would take the first 2 games, but after shifting to Philadelphia, the Cubs would take Game 3 on a complete game by Guy Bush, and would threaten to even up the series in Game 4. Starting for the Cubs was Game 1 loser Charlie Root against Jack Quinn for the A's, who was making his first start. Both pitchers would notch zeros in the first 3 innings. Then the 4th, the Cubs would strike first on a home run by Charlie Grimm to take a 2-0 lead. The A's would mount a threat in the bottom of the 4th and again the 5th, but Root would work out of both of them. Then the 6th, the Cubs would give Philadelphia even more fits. Quinn had pitched well for the first 5 innings, but would be chased with 2 runs on 4 straight singles as the Cubs took a 4-0 lead. Rube Wahlberg would come in to relieve, but wouldn't be able to stop the bleeding, as he would give up 3 more runs, and with the Cubs now leading 7-0, it looked for sure that they would even up the series. They'd tack on another run in the 7th, with what looked to be an insurance run, but what the A's would do in the bottom half would make the game one for the ages. Al Simmons led off with a home run to make it 8-1, and even though it didn't look like much, there was a lot more to come. Jimmy Fox and Bing Miller would then single to put runners at first and second with no one out for Jimmy Dykes, and even though the Cubs still led by 7 runs, the A's had made things a little interesting. Dykes would single to left to score Fox, and Joe Bully would hit a single to right to score Miller. It was now an 8-3 game with runners at the corners and still nobody out, and the crowd, who had been quiet for most of the game, was starting to make some noise. The next batter was pinch hitter George Burns, with a chance to put the A's even closer, but he would pop out. Now with 8 outs to go, and with the Cubs still up by 5, Max Bishop came to the plate and singled to center to score Dykes to make it 8-4, chasing Root. Art Neff came in to pitch to Mule Haas, who hit a fly ball to center field that looked like it was going to be the second out, but center fielder Hack Wilson lost the ball in the sun, and all 3 runners would score for an inside-the-park home run, making it 8-7, and the crowd went wild as the game that at one point was a laugher was now anything but. With the tying run now at the plate, Mickey Cochran came up and walked to chase Neff. Sheriff Blake then came in to face Al Simmons, coming up for his second at-bat of the inning, and Bucket-Foot Al would ground a single to left to send Cochran to second. Now with the go-ahead run at first, Fox came up and singled to score Cochran, tying the game and chasing Blake. Pat Malone would then come in to pitch to Miller, who he would hit to load the bases for Dykes with a chance to be hero. Dykes would do just that when he hit a double to left to score Simmons and Fox and give the A's a 10-8 lead. Malone would strike out the next 2 hitters, but the damage was done, as the A's were now 6 outs away from taking a 3-1 lead. Lefty Grove would come in to pitch the 8th and would retire all 6 hitters, as the A's completed one of the all-time great comebacks in baseball history, which would be remembered as the Mack Attack. The A's would wrap up the series in Game 5 on yet another comeback, this time in the 9th inning, highlighted by a game-tying 2-run homer by Mule Haas and a walk-off single by Bing Miller, giving Philadelphia their 4th title and their first since 1913. They would win the World Series again in 1930, but lose in 31 to the St. Louis Cardinals, and the team would start to struggle again, never finishing higher than 4th place after the 33 season, and they would move to Kansas City in 1955. The team would not return to glory again until moving to Oakland in 1968, where they would win 14 division titles, a wild card berth, 6 American League pennants, and 4 world championships.